Hello everyone, this is Madison Arthur, your local Seattle real estate broker, helping buyers and sellers find the right fit throughout the region. So today we're going to be discussing how Seattle's real estate market is just a little bit different than other cities I know of in the US. So this video is definitely tailored towards those looking to relocate who might have already purchased in the past but aren't familiar with this city itself. So it's going to be brief, informative, and quite helpful. So let's just jump right in. Okay, so first off, we're going to be talking about the weekly timeline of real estate here in Seattle. So as a rule of thumb, properties tend to hit the market on Wednesday and Thursday, and then buyers are supposed to have the weekend to kind of do their due diligence, vet out the property, and see if they are interested in writing an offer. And then offer review days are typically on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. Now, this is specifically for homes that are likely going to get a lot of traction, and here in Seattle, that tends to be single-family properties in kind of the urban suburban neighborhoods surrounding downtown that are priced between $900,000 to maybe $1.3 or $1.5 million. That's what we tend to see, although it can be slightly outside of that skew depending on if the property is really well priced and presented nicely. And I will say, in regards to condos, you will not see this as much. Usually offers are reviewed upon receipt, and they don't always have the timeline that I just discussed. Now, on this same rule of thumb, you will see oftentimes in Seattle for more competitive properties, things like seller pre-inspections. So this is when an inspection is actually done before the home hits the market by the seller. And the reason why this originally started is because sellers were getting lots of different competing offers and buyers were waiving inspections by doing buyer procured inspections before writing their offers. But as you can imagine, with 6 or 7 offers on the table, only one gets selected and all of those other buyers now have to go through the same process again, which can be really expensive because inspections tend to cost anywhere from $400 to maybe even $800 depending on how big the house is. So it's definitely an investment that you have to make, and you want to be serious about the property that you're going to purchase. Now, once again, you won't see this on every home, but it is very, very common with single family properties in the greater kind of Seattle vicinity. And what I'll say is, if you're in a competitive situation, you may elect to use this, but if you or the buyer have more leverage, then I definitely recommend still getting your own inspection because this is something that can be very educational, but you also just never know until you see it yourself, and you always just want to have that extra protection in place. I also do want to preface this by saying we are in a really good place for buyers right now. If we're looking at the market historically over the past few years, there have been a lot more multi-offer situations. However, where things are actually slowing down, and it's the first time in a while that we've had a more balanced real estate environment. We're seeing a lot of leverage on the buyer side, so you can get things like rate buy downs, longer inspection contingencies, more contingencies, and protections just in place for you. So just keep that in mind, but also wanted to share what we have seen historically. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about pricing. So when it comes to condos, the kind of average is around $550,000 with more luxury options and bigger square footage going up higher, and obviously smaller condos going for a little less, probably around $200,000 is the cheapest that you'll find, but typically $400 to $600 is what we see. And then townhomes tend to be right around $850 as an average, with really nicer models going higher towards $1 million, and kind of more simple rudimentary ones being closer to around $600,000. And they can definitely range based on the size too, because it isn't quite a condo and it's really not quite a single family home either. So those are kind of the averages. And then as of now, the average home price for a single family property is right around $1 million. So they are pretty pricey here in Seattle, as you can imagine. And you'll tend to find that range maybe starting around $850,000 all the way up into, multi-million dollar ranges depending on what you want to find. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is pre-approval letters. When purchasing a property in Seattle, this is quite customary to have with you when writing an offer, and it just shows the seller that you are financially well equipped to purchase the property. So what you'll do is you'll want to connect with your lender very early on in the process, get your financing established, and they will provide you with a pre-approval letter that says the max purchase price and down payment that you can do on a property. And you can actually have them tailor this number towards the property of interest. Once you've received this letter from your lender, you will submit it with your offer, and the selling side can kind of see where you're at financially. It's an important document to have in this city, so just wanted to mention it. Okay, so next we're going to be talking about what you need to inspect when touring different properties in this region. The Pacific Northwest can be a very moist place. So the number one things that you're going to want to check are the roof, the attic, the exterior siding, and crawl spaces of the building. Here you're going to want to inspect for mold, signs of water damage, and anything that could be relating to that moisture getting into your home itself. A lot of the buildings here are made out of wood, and that can rot, so that's also important to kind of check. But overall, the things that you're going to want to be inspecting are very much related to that potential moisture intruding your property. It's also worth mentioning that you want to make sure that your property sits on a lot that drains out well so that you won't have flooding surrounding the exterior. That's another thing that's important to look at. I also recommend doing a bit of research to find what flood zone that you're in. Those are always nice to kind of learn a little bit more about if you have a property that you're really interested in. Okay, next, one of the unique things about Seattle is that it has its neighboring city, Bellevue, right next door. And they both offer very, very different lifestyles and experiences. So you have the option to kind of choose between one or the other. Now, if you're looking for a more modern city that has a more suburban, relaxed feel, then you might choose Bellevue. If you want something more crazy, more chaotic, that has a lot going on, tons of food, restaurants, walkable shops, a little bit more urban, then perhaps you might find Seattle to be a better fit. So those are kind of the ways that I would describe them, but I definitely recommend doing a little bit of research on the greater area because there are so many different neighborhoods to choose from. Now, if you need help doing that, I absolutely am a great resource. Feel free to follow my page because I share about different neighborhoods and will link up a playlist I have about all of the different ones in the region that continues to grow and grow as I film more. Okay, lastly, we're going to talk about the seasonality of Seattle. The real estate market here absolutely changes. So early months of January, February, March are when listings tend to be prepped. So you're going to have a lot of homes soon coming to market. And then once March comes around, throughout the entire spring through early summer, the real estate market is booming. There's a lot of inventory. There tends to be a lot of buyers as well. This is a time where you can see a little bit more competition, but you also have so many different home options, and it's a popular time for transacting in general. Then as you move into the summer months, so that's right now, I'm in August, you'll find that things tend to slow down and kind of even out. There's still a good bit of inventory in the market, there's still a good bit of buyers, but things just kind of balance themselves out, and you have a good kind of steady mix of buyers and sellers. And then as you hit the later fall months as well as wintertime, things really tend to slow down. Now, if you are looking for something a little bit more broad and looking for a good deal, this could be a good time to buy because there are going to be better prices. But that said, you don't have as many options. So oftentimes I see kind of investors looking at this time of year, and then, homeowners who have very specific criteria looking more towards the spring and summer months. But ultimately, depending on what you want, you could find something that fits your needs in any of these seasons. Alright, so that's what I have for you all today. I hope this was a little bit informative. I do have tons of Seattle content on my page, so feel free to follow along and watch any more videos that you might find helpful. I do also have short form media such as TikTok and Instagram where I talk about similar topics. And again, if you're looking to relocate here or you have any buying or selling questions, let's definitely connect. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you guys a great rest of your day. Bye.